Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, people miss you. Hang out. Welcome back to Screen Preach. Episode 46 is official. Here we are, 46, and we are nearing our 50th episode, our Marvel Cinematic Universe special. And there's plenty of Marvel to talk about as it continues to grow every week now. As of course, this is the first of 6 weeks that we will be talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier. Of course. First recap this week. And yeah, how we doing? How's everybody? What are you watching? I'm tired today. I'm really I had to work myself up to doing this right now. I didn't even want to wait until I'm not gonna wait until night because it's 7:30 now when it's night, and I want to just chill. I want to chill when it's 7:30. I don't want to do this. I just want to eat dinner and watch TV on Saturday night when it's fucking 7:30 and it finally gets dark. So I'm not, there's no need to wait. Daytime is good. Day, record, and I think it sucks though, because you know how it looks so much better at night with the lighting and just the way it hits the posters is just better. I don't know. I guess I'll try to do. It's not that I don't enjoy doing this. It's just when it's a long week. When it gets to Saturday night, I don't want to fucking be bothered by anybody. I don't want to fucking do anything. I just want to chill out and basically effortless stuff. And this is pretty much effortless, but my mind has got to be in the right place. I don't know why I'm tired today. I guess it's because it's just a long week. There's nothing else. We'll get into it now. Let's talk about. Here we go. Episode 1 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Episode recap. Spoilers, of course. Spoilers for the first episode. Just premiered yesterday for me, for you guys this past Friday. And it's it's on Disney Plus, and you can go watch it now. You definitely should check it out. Already getting good praise from critics and fans everywhere, of course. And the first episode, the only thing that surprised me about it was that it really was kind of like a setup. I don't know why that surprised me, but I mean, that's what it should do. It should really just set up Sam and Bucky and where they're at after the big war against Thanos and everything that happened, Where are they at and what's going on in the world? That's the best thing about these series, is it really allows Marvel to expand on how the world is changing post-Thanos, post-Snap, post-Blip, whatever, and post-Tony, post-Steve. That's really, this one explores, in the way that I think that Armor Wars, starring Don Cheadle, will explore a world post-Tony Stark. This show is very much exploring the idea of a world without Steve Rogers in it, what that looks like. But right off the bat, this is a deep. It's very deep and it's just very relevant for literally everything that this earthbound cornerstone of the MCU should be touching on. And like I said, and that's the best thing about Marvel. I can be bitchy about people being fuck the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but then they loved WandaVision, or vice versa. But that's Marvel, man, is that they have something for everybody. The way that and I'll go into it in more detail when I talk about Marvel in a few weeks at the big special, about how they do this kind of genre mixing thing where they just kind of dive into and delve in these different genre and tonal little corners of their universe, and how every one of them is different in their. And for me, this is my show, man, because this is, aside from a lot of the big space stuff that I love, and I mean, I suppose Tony's cornerstone was always a favorite. Wakanda became immediate favorite cornerstone. This is really my favorite cornerstone. Is like this thriller, this action thriller cornerstone that the Captain America movies always used to brush on and be embedded with. That's this cornerstone. It's the Cap cornerstone, the Earth, social, political, kind of issues and conflicts that this corner of the MCU deals with. And you have two protagonists that really just embody these themes. You got Sam on one side. I've been waiting for a show to really touch on how black people in America are really treated. You know, Black Panther was just a jumping off point for that with the villain of the film, with Killmonger. But this is already diving into areas that I knew it needed to, and I wasn't sure if it was going to do it right away, and it did, and it's great. Because, I mean, literally that bank scene is a good example. The bank scene is a perfect portrait of, like, systemic racism, right, in America, the way that they're declining this loan. And literally, like, when I think of that, sometimes I think of, like, when I think of systemic racism, I think of, like, the way that African Americans are treated in the banking system and the loans, just the housing system, all that stuff. And literally the portrait of it that I always think of is like a bank scene where someone's getting denied. And that's literally in this episode. So it was perfect in that regard. But also just the overall episode deals with the idea of Sam being the guy. He's supposed to be the next Captain America. The mantle was passed him. And instead, he feels there's a legacy behind that shield, a burden behind that shield that doesn't belong to him. Steve's legacy should be honored, not taken on by somebody else, in his eyes. So he's trying to do the right thing right off the bat. He's just trying to protect that legacy by not tainting it with his own, I guess, with his own agendas and his own missions and his own his own conflicts and everything like that. He's just trying to not take on what belonged to Steve and only Steve in his eyes. And I love that scene. Don Cheadle is in this episode. I don't know if this like I said a while back, Don Cheadle was going to show up in this, and I thought that was really cool. And he shows up right away in the first episode. I don't know if he's going to show up again. I hope he does. Because he's going to... It's kind of similar for what... In a way, you know... James Rhodes is the successor to Tony Stark in a lot of ways, too. So it's a similar thing. It's the idea of a black man taking over this mantle. The Iron Man mantle, the Captain America mantle. And that is a very interesting and relevant point. And so right off the bat, that is just deeply expressed in this episode, and it's going to be a recurring, it's going to be the main central theme of this. Because while he's fucked over by the loan in that scene, the big obvious betrayal was from America itself at the end of this episode. The way that they literally shit all over what he was trying to do and give that shield, which he believes doesn't belong to anyone else, to some random person, right? Not only that, the guy literally steals Sam's speech. The speech he says at the end is literally like the same fucking speech that Sam says in the beginning. But he uses it in a different way, with a different outcome, right? So that was just insane, man. And then on the other side of it, we have Bucky, who just embodies this idea of a man who needs a fight. You know what I mean? It's great to see that he's pardoned by the country, but then has to make amends for things. That's really unbelievable character development, right? We need this for Bucky. He didn't really get a chance to breathe after he came back. You know, it's been one fight after the next, and he finally has a chance to breathe. And I think that he finds that what he really wants is a need to fight for something else. I think when she asks him, "What do you want?" he says, "Peace," and she says, "You're lying." It's true, he is lying, because he's very much... Marvel always plays with characters like this, and I think Bucky's a really great example of it in this main arc of the MCU. We've seen similar characters like it. You know, Punisher, Frank Castle's a good example of that. You know, a man who needs a fight He needs to be fighting for something. That's purpose for him. It's similar with Bucky. I think he's going to find that he still needs to be fighting for something. That's why he's going to evolve into a hero. That's what his evolution is going to be. For Sam, it's evolving into the next Captain America and what that means. But it's also interesting to think about how Cap alone kind of never really needed a sidekick. He had sidekicks. He had Sam and Bucky, but he didn't really need them so much physically. He could handle things. I mean, Bucky, yes, he does. He's kind of a super soldier too, though, isn't he? But mentally, he can't handle it. So I think they're two halves of a whole that is the next Captain America in a way. Their partnership will probably be the legacy of Captain America and the future of Captain America. I think, yes, Sam must evolve into being the wielder of this shield, into being Captain America, but he's going to need Bucky there to complete this whole. You know, they're two halves of a whole, I think. And Bucky for me is a fan favorite character of mine. I just love that what he's been through, his arc in this whole narrative is just really heavy, man. And it always bothered me that him and Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, didn't have more of a dynamic before she died, because they have a lot in common as characters. They've been through shit and been tormented by other people's agendas and used and all. You know, they just had a lot in common, and I thought they were like clear dynamic, even relationship possibly that should have happened and didn't. But Bucky, we can just see it right off the bat here what he's dealing with. Just guilt is heavy, and it cuts deep, and it's something not easily healed. And he very much embodies this idea of a PTSD ridden, ex-soldier. And I think when he does suit up again, it's going to be on his terms. That's the thing. It's never been on his terms. It needs to be on his terms. And that's what this is about for him. I love the two sides of this, and our two main characters. The whole picture of it is how people are used in this country. People, especially people in their kind of positions, and don't get to really choose for themselves how best to approach their purpose, what they want to be, and how they want to act, and what they want to fight for. This is what we're gonna get to. But yeah, just the big bombshell at the end there, that betrayal is the country betrays Sam, gives that mantle to someone who has no earthly reason to have that mantle, and then we can talk about it. Let's talk about who this is. Who is the new Captain America? Because he is a character that is in the comics, and he is important. And so this is a new character, and the character's name is John Walker. This has not yet been revealed in the show, but if you just look it up a little, you can see who it is. It's John Walker, and John Walker in the comics is someone who does become Captain America for a time, but then becomes his own hero called U.S. Agent. And whether or not we see his arc in this season from the new Cap into U.S. Agent is yet to be seen, but the same thing in the comics. Is not really somebody who deserved the mantle. The government, it's their puppet, their poster boy kind of Cap that can do whatever they want him to do. It's also unclear in this. I also don't know the backstory of the comics enough to clarify this, but John Walker, whether or not he has powers similar to Cap, super soldier powers or not, I don't know. We will see. That's something I should have looked up a little more. If the comics, I don't know if it's like that in the comics or not, but that's something we will learn very, very quickly. And that's who's wielding this shield. It's not very deserving. But, we'll see how things progress, man. That opening scene, just fantastic. Very reminiscent of the Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Captain America 2 opening scene, right? Sam just doing what he knows, right? Fighting fighting these battles, similar to how Steve was just doing what he knew at that time, just fighting, just getting back in the ring and just keep fighting. And not only that, they fight the same villain in those two scenes. So, in case you probably didn't notice if you didn't really pay attention, but the bad guy that Sam fights in the opening scene of this episode is the same bad guy, like a mini villain that this MCU has. Same bad guy that Cap fights in the opening scene of Captain America 2. Same guy. The villain's name is Batroc, and he pops back up, and he's still doing his same old shit. He's a criminal. He's also skilled combat, and he gets his ass beat by both Steve and Sam, and it was a cool nod. There was a lot of similarities between the two opening scenes. Yeah. 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 That guy. And so also there's for Bucky, I think we're wondering what his evolution is, fully what his evolution is, who he kind of evolves into, and the moniker he takes on. Because the idea about the idea that's presented right away in this episode is that he's not the Winter Soldier anymore. He's not. He's trying to move on from that moniker, from that what comes with that moniker, like all the baggage he's trying to literally change and grow. So what is next? And in the films, we see that there's a brief glimpse of a potential next step for Bucky into the White Wolf, right? In Wakanda, kids called him that, and it was a potential next evolution for the character. And then a lot of people lately have said it's not going to happen. The White Wolf in the comics is not Bucky Barnes. But I think there's a possibility still that he's the MCU version of the White Wolf. That's his next moniker. That's the hero that he becomes. I just think a lot of the stylistic choices on the part of the costume designing kind of hints at it, for me anyway. And we haven't seen him in costume yet in the actual show, but I've seen pictures. And just the color scheming and it kind of looks like they could still put him in that. That's the next step, the next direction they take the character. Still possible, I think. And yeah, just a really great setup episode. That's what it was. And so this one's a little harder for me to wait for every week. I just really enjoy the characters and the area of the universe, this cornerstone of the universe. I just really want the next episode. But yeah, so just other than that, I wanted to maybe break down a couple other things for people who maybe weren't aware. But other characters are going to pop up in this as well. Sharon Carter's returning. She is a character from the Captain America films. She's the great niece of Peggy Carter, Steve's eventual wife, right? Love interest. Sharon was a potential love interest for Steve that naturally did not need to play out. And she was integral in the films, and now her character's going to evolve into a new direction, and of course the series allow for expansion on the characters and stuff. So this is great for Sharon Carter. She's going to pop up. And then also Zemo. Zemo is in this. Okay, Zemo was the villain in Captain America Civil War. He's the guy who framed Bucky Barnes. He's the guy who revealed that Bucky Barnes killed Tony Stark's parents. He's the guy who broke up the Avengers, right? That was Zemo in Captain America Civil War. He is potentially the main villain of this series, obviously. And it begs the question who the hell that guy was in the middle sequence of this episode, right? There was a big scene where the Flag Stompers, I think their name is, the organization. Terrible name, and Sam makes fun of it. The Flag Stompers. There's one guy who came out with the money, and he jumps down. He's tossing people around. He clearly has some kind of super soldier powers of some sort. Don't necessarily think that that's Zemo. Could be. When did he get powers? Then there's still questions, so maybe there's not the kind of theories that WandaVision had, but there are, fan theories that are going to pop up about who's who and what's going on and what's what. It's still Marvel, right? But Zemo being in this is great, I think, and he's finally going to wear his comic accurate costume in this. So that's really cool, too. But all in all, I can't wait for next week and for the weeks that follow, and we will keep talking about it. For the most part, I break down the episode, you know? It's not so much here's my theory about this, or my theory about that, no, I'm just breaking it down, you know? And, of course, what my opinion about it is, and I think it's great, I really do. I think it's really good right now. Not great, but it will be great. This, as the show progresses, easily. So yeah, that's that. Let's move on. We'll talk about the news this week that I saw. Do the news of the week, and there was one big thing. I'll break that down a little more for everybody. I posted it on Instagram. We'll get to that though. Let's start with some of the latest stuff that I saw. This most recently just in was American Horror Story Season 10 officially has a title. It's called Double Feature. Apparently it's 2 stories kind of merged together. That's kind of the idea of the season, I think. Interesting. I still have to catch up. I got to watch Season 9. I'll definitely watch, and then I'll watch Season 10. And then don't forget that there's a new series coming out for American Horror Story called American Horror Stories, plural, which is every episode is a different story. Definitely want to check that out because it seems interesting too. Matthew McConaughey is in talks to join a spin-off television series on HBO for a movie that he did back in the day called A Time to Kill. Right? Is it A Time to... It's a movie that I actually have not seen. But I like when films have a chance to become TV shows and to get expanded on, but even more so if the same actor's returning, you know. So yeah, McConaughey's in talks to return and reprise his role, you know, for A Time to Kill sequel series at HBO. More Marvel news. They released the first official poster for Loki. Loki comes out on June 11th. Here's the first official poster for it. That is more in the alley of what people who are big fans of WandaVision maybe will enjoy. That cornerstone is definitely a multi-dimensional cornerstone that has yet to be fully expanded on yet in the MCU. We've had our space, cosmos corner. We've had our Earth corner. We've had our kind of, you know, brief interdimensional cornerstone with like Ant-Man and Doctor Strange. But now, like, the multiverse itself really will be expanded on in this next arc. And Loki's definitely up that alley for people who are bigger fans of that cornerstone, like WandaVision. So that's cool. Kevin Feige he shoots down any potential rumors of Chris Evans returning as Captain America. He says, nah, that's not happening. I mean, anything's possible, especially when we're dealing with the kind of stories we're dealing with here. But he's, for now, definitely shooting down those rumors. Chris Evans is not returning. But worth thinking about. If he is returning, I mean, he could return in Falcon and Winter Soldier. He could, like, as Old Man Steve and kind of... it's not... Steve's not dead yet. He's just an old man, and he's the way that they're approaching this, and people don't know what happened to Steve, you know? No, but people either think he's dead or that they don't know. Only Sam and Bucky know, and Bruce, and very few people actually know what happened with Steve. Venom 2 release date was delayed to 2022. No, September of this year. What was 2022? Oh, yeah, they pushed Gotham Knights video game back to 2022. Venom 2 will be out in September, so basically, yeah, a whole year later. Everything became a whole year later, except they moved up A Quiet Place Part 2, so that is coming out. It was going to come out in September, I think, and now it's coming out Labor Day or something. They're doing a Puss in Boots sequel. So, I mean, I was thinking about this recently too. Like, it just randomly popped into my head how that franchise like just fell off the map, and there were never any more movies and nothing. Like Shrek was I grew up on that, and then it just stopped. I think the last one was Puss in Boots was in 2011, right? They did 4 Shrek movies and then Puss in Boots, and that was it. So all these years later, they are doing the Puss in Boots sequel with Antonio Banderas returning, and there's a fall 2022 release date for it. So that's interesting. Secret Invasion, Disney Plus Marvel series starring Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury. Secret Invasion is one of the shows coming. They have casted their villain, the guy who will play their villain, and it is Kingsley Ben-Adir. Will be playing the villain in Secret Invasion. That is, I guess, that's that's all the buzz. Like that's in the grapevine. How do we say this? That's what people think, right? I don't know if it's 100% confirmed. I probably could have just said rumor. The rumor is that he's the villain, but I don't know if it's 100% confirmed that he's playing the villain. So that's cool. Casting news. Zack Snyder's Justice League did officially came out on Thursday, a day before Falcon and Winter Soldier. We got Marvel and DC this week. It was a big week in superheroes. And I'll definitely be watching it. It's a 4-hour cut. It's long as fuck, but it got astoundingly very good reviews for the most part. Fans are loving it, and critics are liking it. They're not like it's good apparently, and I can't wait to watch it. I'm gonna watch it and talk about it for episode 47. So that'll be fun. And then I like this. Just real quick, somebody mentioned how WandaVision, Kevin Feige has not 100% confirmed what the plan is for certain series. WandaVision is supposed to be one and done, but and I guess Falcon and Winter Soldier is supposed to also potentially like have a second season. Like those were the initial whisperings about those shows from Kevin Feige. Loki is already confirmed to have a second season, so it varies. But I think they're not 100% now what they want to do with WandaVision. It could have a second season, and there's a lot of talk about how it should have a second season after Doctor Strange. To kind of pick up where that leaves off. I think it's been confirmed that the post-credit scene with Wanda at the end of WandaVision, in the cabin where she's reading the Darkhold, and that's apparently a scene in Doctor Strange too, like pulled directly from the movie. So just so you know, if you're like upset about WandaVision ending, you got to remember that her arc just continues now in something else, and she is a main character in Doctor Strange. It's also possible she's the villain, and I was thinking about it the other day too. What if she's the next Thanos level villain? Their little battle in Endgame, just the two of them, where Wanda's kicking his ass and almost beats him. That's like a little like passing of the torch kind of thing. It could be like I'm the big bad next kind of thing. Like obviously, she doesn't want to be bad. Like it's not like, but if she loses control of her powers, she could be the next Thanos level villain. Not even the people we've been predicting. Not Kang the Conqueror. Not Galactus. Not none of those guys. Doctor Doom, whoever you think it might be. It could be Wanda. We could literally have a full arc of a character going from being sort of bad, confused when we first meet her, into good, into a hero, into into conflicted, into a full-fledged fucking villain. Like, that's a hell of an arc for a character. So it's very possible. Just know that this arc for her, this story for Wanda's story is just not over, dude. If you're upset about WandaVision ending, it's not over. Just fucking pay attention and keep watching. What's crazy to me is that people can be so into one series or one movie in this universe, but then not into another. Dude, it's all one big thing. How can you not be following all of it? It's all connected. So how can you not be, that's weird to me, but I guess I understand. And the way that Marvel makes their stuff, it allows for that. It allows for people to just kind of pick and choose what they want to watch. but it's crazy to me. The details. I mean, just watch Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 1 and the details. Like, you didn't know. I bet those of you who don't really follow as much, you didn't know that was the same villain that Cap fought. Like, I brought that up and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even like, but that's what makes it so great overall, is the connectivity of it. So when you just like one thing, not another, you follow this but not that, it's kind of, it's like half-assing a TV show. It's like watching 3 seasons of Game of Thrones and then saying, you know what, fuck it. But then somehow going back and watching the last season, but not watching it, and then it's like, what are you doing? You gotta stop half-assing this shit and be all in. Or not at all. Whatever. By the way, for those of you watching the full episode and are wondering, well, wait a minute, well, why is it night again? I mean, well, why is it night all of a sudden? What's going on here? I recorded earlier today, and I forgot to do the main news segment, which was going to be about the 3 Game of Thrones spinoffs that are coming out, which I'm psyched for, and any fan would be. So I'm going to talk about that real quick. For those of you just watching this segment, you won't know the fucking difference anyway. Okay, yeah, so that was the biggest thing in the news this week, in my opinion. HBO announced 3 new Game of Thrones spin-offs. 3. So we already have House of the Dragon, which is about the Targaryen family in the past when they were at the height of their power. And now, and there was that one way back too that they scrapped and they're not doing. I don't know why they're not doing it. I mean, they even filmed it and they scrapped it. Maybe it was that bad. Maybe it just didn't come out good. I don't know. But these 3 are official. 3 new ones. Yeah, they announced, and they all take place. I think, I mean, 2 out of the 3 definitely take place in the past. One of them could take place around the same time as the show, but focus on a different group of people. So I'll talk about real quick what they are. We got 9 Voyages. 9 Voyages is about Lord Corlys Velaryon. Yes, that Velaryon. If you remember the show, Valyrian steel was always the strongest steel. So this is the guy, and this is the family that famously discovered that indestructible kind of very strong steel, right? And went on to be even more richer than the Lannisters. His voyages led to I think the formation of his house, to the House Velaryon, which are not a thing in the main Game of Thrones series, but they are. They were back then. That's 9 Voyages. Not 10,000 Ships is the one I'm really looking forward to. It centers on the warrior princess Nymeria. Nymeria was a huge fan favorite of Arya. Like, Arya was really into her story, which we hear about in season 1 of Game of Thrones. Arya really loved how she was this warrior princess and she was skilled and badass, basically. And to the point where Arya named her direwolf after Princess Nymeria. She named her direwolf Nymeria. The Princess Nymeria is best known for basically forming the Dornish kingdoms, or at least one of them, by marrying the Martells, and I think definitely 10,000 Ships must also explore her adventures too. She was a warrior princess. That one I'm really looking forward to. And then the third one is Flea Bottom, and Flea Bottom could take place around the same time as the show, or in the past, or whenever really. But it focuses on the poor, basically. Taking the world of Westeros and looking at it through another perspective. Not the royal, not the high class, but the low class, the regular folk. The Flea Bottom is in King's Landing. It's a place in King's Landing where all the lower class people live. So that's also an interesting take on Game of Thrones, on Westeros. The world of Westeros just continues to expand for any of us fans. I'm definitely looking forward to all 3 of them. When more news about them, more details about them come out, I will, of course, update everybody. But yeah, that's definitely very interesting stuff. And we'll talk about our film this week. This week I watched a film called I Care a Lot on Netflix. Somebody brought it up to me, and I saw it trending a little bit. Like, go check this out. And then that's what I decided to talk about this week. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're talking about right now. Yeah, I care a lot. She even says it. She even says the title of the movie. It's even more exciting than when they say the title of the movie in the movie. I. They did that with WandaVision too. I've been watching WandaVision now for like when they say the title of it, she says that in the courts and stuff. She's like, I care so much. Yeah, you care. You care a whole lot about yourself. And that's kind of the whole thematic idea of this movie. Is that we follow characters that suck. They're just shitty people. And so if that's hard for you to swallow right off the bat and you're bored with that, then it's not the movie for you. But know that there's only one way to have a satisfying ending with characters like this. You don't want to see them win or succeed, right? The whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, we want to either see, we're like, do we want her to win, Marla, or do we want Roman to win, right? The gangster she's facing off against. It's like, it's two shitty people, though. So why do we care about either of them? And no, it actually ends up being like a little fake out ending that I'll get to. Like, it's like, oh, this sucks. They're just going to go on and keep doing shitty shit. But then no, we get kind of the poetic justice ending. So that made it work. And, it's not like we've never watched stuff where we root for bad people. Like, just watch The Sopranos. Tony's not a good guy, but we care. So it's not like that's a new thing. So that's what you have to mentally get yourself in that mindset when you're watching this. You're not going to really like them, right? But it's to the point where we really don't like them. Like, I really didn't like them. Anybody. Except maybe the mother who's the victim of all this, right? I didn't really... Right, I didn't know anything about it going in. Didn't know what kind of movie it was, nothing. And I like that, too. So I just go in with an open mind. And immediately as it started to get underway, I wondered, is this based on a true story? Because when you think about it, like, you're like, does this happen to people? And I'm sure it does to an extent, but maybe not to this extent. Maybe it does. It's not based on a true story, but it takes a potential real idea and just dramatizes it to the extreme. And we have quite an interesting concept. It's an interesting concept. Definitely worth, like, making a movie out of, whoever came up with the idea, they had a nice idea and worked with that. Because it's fucked up, right, overall. And you're like, Jesus, if this really happens. Yeah, I mean, there is exploitation of the elderly in reality, I'm sure. This one is just the extreme possible scenario. Here's where it gets tough, though. How are we supposed to care about these main characters? The opening sequence with the voiceover immediately makes it clear that we're dealing with shitty people. Our protagonist is a lioness, as she puts it, but really she's just a bad person, and she justifies it by claiming that society wants to keep her down, keep her poor, and so she has to take what she wants. And to an extent, we can relate to that. There is a relatability there, but you're not going to do those things if it means harming other people at the bottom. That's how you get to the top, is by fucking over other people. That's not something we care about and can relate to. We don't like that. So it was hard to relate to this character. Very hard. To the point where I didn't at all. But it's immediately a challenge for the writers to make us empathize or sympathize with her. And yeah, I had a hard time with that. But following bad main characters is nothing new, like I said. You may hate Marla and her circle of people, but that's because you're probably supposed to hate Marla and her circle of people. The movie does a good job effectively pacing things and moving the story along. I thought there was no problems there. When we finally do get to see how Marla does what she does, it's horrible. And of course, we are introduced to Mrs. Peterson, Jennifer Peterson. And in that sequence, And she's actually the only character that we kind of root for, right? That she's the one we root for. She's a victim, and we want to see her get out of this. Uh, the chickens always come home to roost, like in Wolf of Wall Street. What does he always say to Jordan? Chickens are gonna come home to roost. And Jordan's like, whatever the fuck that means. But it's true, because that's what happens with Marla too, man. I think our true start to this movie is at the end of the first act, when we learn who Mrs. Peterson really is, like who she's connected to, and that she's not innocent and everything either. It just made it even harder to root for her, even. But like, I still did, because she's just, at the end of the day, in this particular scenario, she's just an old woman who's not really responsible for any of it. She's just getting used and abused, and naturally, it turns out she does have a son, right? Jennifer Peterson, and he immediately comes off as someone you don't want to fuck with. And that's Roman, played by Peter Dinklage. After that initial break-in attempt, break her out, we get a shift in the movie. The game is truly on between Marla and Roman. That's what it becomes. It becomes a game between these two. And it's like an unraveling of events from there. Russian Mafia, right? As soon as you learn Russian Mafia, any normal person would want to get the fucking hell out of there and just call it a day. But Marla is obsessed with the idea of winning and not getting beaten by anyone, not even a fucking mobster. And that's important, because, I mean, then later there's a confrontation that really defines who Marla is as a character, right, as a person. The movie becomes about who's going to come out on top, right? Who are you rooting for? And I thought the title was sort of significant. It was a really perfect title for the movie. I Care a Lot is kind of like the attitude of Marla's character, coming off as someone who cares so much she'll keep fighting. But of course, like I said, that's because she cares a lot about herself, her success, her authority, her power. But that is her attitude. I care so much, I'm going to do all this shit to make sure that I come out on top. And there's one line that sums up the parallel between the two main characters, right? Marla saying that she doesn't care about that sociopath when she's talking about her mother. And it's quick, but it's important. That confrontation between them, when they finally meet, it reveals that Marla gets her sociopathic tendencies perhaps from her mother, but it also reveals that she's as twisted as any bad guy. She's as bad, if not worse, than Roman or any other crazy, murderous monster. The difference, too, in that moment is, like, Roman represents the opposite in a way, because he actually cares about his mother so deeply that he's doing what he's doing for his mother, whereas she's just doing what she's doing for herself. So it's that. I liked the opposing perspectives or character traits in that regard. And it does reveal Marla to be the true villain of this all, you know. It may look like typical bad guys like Roman are the ones you should be afraid of, but Marla reveals herself to be the one you should watch out for, and I liked that twist. Because you're immediately supposed to think she's not going to go. How is she going to keep? She's going to keep going through with all this. The more she learns, she doesn't give up. She just keeps fucking pulling herself back in, and then she just takes control of everything, and it's crazy. Overall, it's still the kind of story I like when writers explore. I like stories about bad people. The thing is, you have to make us care about them more. I still think you have to make us care about them more. And they tried that with her relationship, right? With Fran. I think Fran is her name. And that's the only person she really cares about other than herself. But it wasn't as powerful as I thought maybe it should have been. It's a crime drama, which is right up my alley. I love crime films. Overall, there's a poetic nature to it. She wants to be a lioness, and then she's going to bump into a lion naturally at some point, and then she's going to have to see if she can handle it. And there lies the problem as an audience. The only victim here is Jennifer Peterson, and she's abused. She's in the middle. She's like in the middle while her son and this woman fight each other. And that was the hardest part about caring overall for the story, but it doesn't mean it wasn't interesting and didn't have me locked in to see what happens. If a movie can hold you, then it's already pretty good. If it remains enthralling, it's borderline great, and if it ends beautifully, it's fantastic. This had a couple of those things, so I think overall it was still good. It kept unraveling in new and interesting ways. Even the end kept making you think, is it over like this? Is it over like this? And then the way it ends is good in terms of, in the realm of it overall, beating him using the same strategy she always has was really good. But what really made it work is that we're meant to think she's going to go on to keep doing all this bad stuff, right? She makes a deal with him. They go into business together. It's like, shit, these two shitty people are just going to keep going on doing the same bullshit. Just bad people doing bad things. And then she gets what she deserves, right? Instead. The only way you can end a movie like this with really shitty characters like this that you hate is to have them fucking, you don't want to see them win. You want to see them lose. So she gets what she deserves. It's poetic justice. And she doesn't get it from a mobster, from some other bad guy. She gets it from the same guy that she was fucking over in the beginning of this movie, right? A guy who represents all the people that she's fucked over. He's like the embodiment of all these people at the bottom that she uses and abuses and fucks over, right? And that's who takes her out. That guy comes up and just shoots her and kills her, and that made it work. Overall, that made the movie work in the end. Chickens came home to roost. Yeah, it needed to happen like that. But of course, what we need to bring up is the cast of this movie, the performances that really made the movie work even better. If you can have actors kind of push it into that next threshold, then that's great. Then you're good. They can sometimes save a shitty movie or just make a somewhat good movie or decent movie even better make it good. And this was good because Rosamund Pike and Peter Dinklage are so great, Yeah. I also really like the score of the movie. It fit the tone. And that's it. That's the movie I watched. That's what we talked about. That's what we're talking about. Interesting premise. So overall, here's my overall review, my rating. Interesting premise, played out with effective twists and a powerhouse cast, helped an average story and unlikable characters to give us a good movie overall. Not great, but good. I give it an 8.0 out of 10. Not any better, but not any worse than that. And that is our discussion this week. Definitely go check it out. It's on Netflix. Let's do our fun fact of the week. Sticking with the actress of Rosamund Pike, let's talk about a film that she's probably best known for. And it's in a similar genre, so it worked out perfectly. Did you know that director David Fincher had not... Let me start that over because holy fuck, Did you know that director David Fincher had no intentions of making the 2014 film Gone Girl, as he was way too busy working on an adaptation of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But that film got delayed and delayed and delayed, and then it got delayed indefinitely. And so Fincher jumped on, kind of at the last minute, to Gone Girl, which was on a fast-track production to, be finished. He did this while being burnt out from all the work he did on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And yet his meticulous nature remained, shooting a remarkable 500 hours of footage for the film. Even with all that pressure, being on a fast track and coming off a film that didn't get made, he went on to make one of the best films that year. Hence, why David Fincher is truly a master. I suppose I could have done a little better with the facts, right? I mean, but 500 hours of footage, holy shit. Question of the week. Last week, Last week I asked who's your favorite woman director. I said Patty Jenkins. Here's what most people said. I mean, it's Catherine Bigelow is gonna be the obvious, but it's that just shows you how unequal it's been in Hollywood. Like the fact that this is the list, it's just not enough working female directors, or there haven't been over the years. I think it's getting much better now. Obviously, it is getting better, but that's crazy, man. I still pick Patty Jenkins. I really like Patty Jenkins. This week I want to know who is your. I'm gonna go for it all. I'm gonna do the big one. It's a big one and it's a tough one. It's one of the obvious big questions, right? Who is your favorite movie villain of all time? Or maybe, you know what? I'll do it a little different. Who's your favorite movie villain of the 21st century? Joker's probably gonna win easily. That's who I would pick, but it's hard. Yeah, There's Thanos, there's Voldemort, and if we're going for all time, Darth Vader's in there, Darth Sidious's in there, but Joker's the best. I just think it's an obvious. But what do you? Who's your favorite movie villain? Who's the best movie villain of all time, or of the 21st century at least? At least of the 21st century. Let's do our movie quote of the week and then wrap this up. I couldn't find anything really. I didn't get around to really delving deep into a quote this week. I'm gonna change it up a little bit though. I'm gonna do it here and in the post. I'll give you a hint to try and make it a little more. Because I pick some that are really tough, or most of them are really tough. But I'll tell you the actress, and I'll tell you the decade, and then you can try to narrow it down. I'm not good. I'm the one who's bad. It's not you. Alright? I'm sorry for lying to you. I lied. I stole. And worse. You can be better than me. Name that movie if you can. The actress is Nicole Kidman, and the decade is this past decade, the 2010s. It's also not a big budget movie, if that helps. So, yeah, what's the movie? Name it. And that's it. I didn't see anything that really caught my attention. Nothing crazy. Maybe I did and forgot. I always forget to, write that down when I see something. I'm always seeing something, I think. And then I just forget to write it down. Can I think of anything real quick? Something I saw worth mentioning. No. I don't care. You don't care either. Not really. Yeah, Gotham Knights was delayed. There's no video games really for me to look forward to, really. I mean, they delaying all the ones I want. Played that werewolf game. It sucks, dude. Can't believe I spent money on that. I am your host, Ben Morganti. Definitely come back next week. Episode 47 is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yeah, we're building up to the Marvel Cinematic Universe special episode 50, with a bunch of cool ones. We're going to have Zack Snyder's Justice League. We're going to have Godzilla vs. Kong. We're going to have Mortal Kombat. We're going to have some shit. Either before or after, too. Like, before the 50th and after the 50th, some good ones to talk about. Follow the show at Screen Peach. Oh, my God. How many peaches do you want to follow? There's no Screen Peaches out there. Screen Preach, at Screen Preach. You can find the show BMS Studios on YouTube. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. For most people, that's Apple Podcasts. Check out my website, benmorgantistory.com, for my work, my videos, the podcast links, the screenplays I've written, all of it. And if you really want to support the show, obviously become a patron at patreon.com/preacher. Shout out to my one patron, Billy Thomas. Check out my brother's channel on YouTube, J&J Customs. Follow at Jerks Sounds for music, jazz and classical, and he's the guy who's done my intro here, and yeah. Who else can I shout out to? Now, if you want shout outs on the show, become a patron. For now, literally, I'll do it. I'll just shout out my patrons. Like, I want, like, normally it would be like a certain tier that I would shout out my patrons, but I'll just do it in general right now. Become a patron, you get a shout out on the show. Have a good week, guys. Have a cinematic week. Enjoy yourself.